Hello, my name is Kurt Hyland, and I'm here today to talk to you about Brew Confusion, an exciting new website that offers a plethora of tools, and I'll go into more detail here in just a minute. So, imagine IKEA. If you've been to IKEA, it's a little overwhelming. There's a lot of stuff, right? Well, imagine IKEA without a path, and you just had to kind of wander around and find stuff. Well, that's what you have right now in the current craft brew landscape in the Pacific Northwest. There's millions of breweries, and there's millions of beers. So it's very difficult to navigate that landscape. So brew enthusiasts are overwhelmed by the amount of brew and brewery choices that are out there. And there's a couple of current websites, but they do not provide the information or the tools consumers need. Brew Confusion will be that website, however. We have several tools to navigate the brew choices that are out there. It's a one-stop website for tools and information, and it brings together the brewers and the brew enthusiasts in the ultimate collaboration. So a little bit about the company. So we're located in Camas, Washington. It's a web-based company providing the following: brewery and brew trackers. We track, by the brewery itself and by the brews you consume at that brewery. There will be a brew suggestion tool. Basically, it's an algorithm that'll suggest which beer you should consume based on your past brew consumption experiences. There will be tap lists provided from each of our brewery partners. There's a homebrew forum where homebrewers can share recipes, ideas, ask questions, and just brag about how good their beer is, or maybe complain about how bad it was. There's a beer rating tool, so maybe you can provide caution to those brewers if there's one that you didn't enjoy, or share with somebody when you really enjoyed their brew. And then online merchandise sales. We want to be able to allow that brewery partner of ours to be able to sell some of their merchandise. And finally, there's links to local breweries just so that, they can share the happy hour menus. They can share local events, local bands, just a link to all the local breweries for people to enjoy and see what information's out there. So a little bit about the industry. Brew Confusion is aligned with the craft brew industry, which is NAICS code 312120. The craft brew industry is growing rapidly. As you can see on the slide right here, it's the business is just doubling, it's tripling, and this is current as of 2010, but it's even it's exceeded 10 billion over that time frame. Very few barriers to entry in the craft brew industry. If you have the idea, if you have the recipe, if you have the means to lease a building and buy minimal brewing equipment, you can start a brewery. Seasonal impact is minimal in the craft brew industry. There's fall brews, there's winter brews, there's spring brews, there's summer brews. So every season is just as exciting as the next. And finally, there's a few websites right now that provide information on the craft brew industry, but they're each one has their little niche and what they provide. But there's not that one-stop website where you can go get all the information that you need, and that's where Brew Confusion comes in. A little bit about the market. If you were to think about the craft brew drinker, you might think of a white male with a big old bushy beard between the ages of 20 to 25. Well, those still may be appropriate, but the market is shifting. 21 to 35-year-olds are the biggest craft brew drinkers, and you wouldn't know it, but nearly half of them are women. Whites are still the largest craft brew drinkers, but consumption is growing most rapidly amongst Hispanics. And the wage gap is increasing. It used to be just your middle to high income earners were the ones that drink craft brew. They used to be 80 to 90% of all craft brew drinkers. Well, that's shifted. Now the bottom 60% of income earners are now account for 40% of craft brew consumption. So it's now becoming more affordable. And the craft brew segment is the fastest growing of any of the domestic beer industry. So the large domestic brewers, well, they're losing market share to the craft brew industry. Well, let's look at the competition. Well, I'm going to focus primarily on websites that provide craft brew information. Domestic import beer industry is not really considered a direct competitor for Brew Confusion. And really, there's two big relevant websites. There's beeradvocate.com and there's ratebeer.com. If you're a craft brew drinker, you've probably heard of both, or maybe at least beeradvocate.com. And both are established websites, but they provide some of the tools Brew Confusion will offer, but they do not provide all of the tools. So Brew Confusion is that one-stop option, and that's part of our competitive advantage. So a strategic plan. We really want to differentiate our product by utility and customer service. We want to provide more value by the numbers of tools we offer and the information we provide. We provide value by providing the best customer service from seed to shelf. We want to differentiate ourselves, again, it's worth noting twice, by utility and customer service. And within the utility category, we want to be that one-stop website. And we want to partner with as many breweries as possible. This is critical, that we partner with as many breweries as possible to increase that information base. And our customer service has got to be excellent. And we want to solidify that with online surveys. We want evaluating tools which respond to customer needs. We want to hear the voice of the customer, and we want to respond to the voice of the customer. Some risks and watch-outs, though, that not everything's smooth sailing, right? So a little bit of risk analysis was completed, and we found there's very few barriers to entry. So a lot of people can join this industry, and so that means there could ultimately be a lot of competitors. As the craft brew industry increases, so do the amount of competitors. So we really have to maintain that early entrant status. We're not first, but we are an early entrant, and we've got to solidify and maintain that status. Application download feeds do turn off the customer. So we want to make sure if we do charge the application download feeds that we're providing enough value to meet the customer's need. That value expectation does not necessarily generate value realization. So we got to make sure we do that. And risk mitigation. We really have to clearly differentiate our product. If there's ultimately a lot of competitors, we have to differentiate our product. We have to provide the best customer service. And our price point research for app downloads, we have to get it right. We have to find that right price point in order to maximize value with the value created. Marketing plan. We must convince consumers they cannot truly enjoy the craft brew experience without brew confusion. They got to go hand in hand. People have to realize they wouldn't possibly think about having a craft brew without brew confusion in hand. So initially, we want to offer a free application download period. That's kind of the get. That's how we're going to get people onto brew confusion. And kind of the slogan we have is providing clarity one beer at a time, right? So that's kind of our slogan, and that's the grow. We're going to have to rely heavily on print advertising. We're going to have to have merchandise with our brew confusion slogan on there. We're going to have to get our name out there. We got to saturate the market with our name. And then web-based advertising. We want to advertise on our partner craft brewery websites, right? We're in this together. Part of our sales strategy really is that the founder, myself, and the sales manager are responsible really for developing and executing the sales strategy. So we want to target craft breweries and craft brew consumers. Those are the biggest customers. Craft breweries, we're going to provide online advertising for craft breweries, and then we want to sell. We're kind of a venue for craft breweries to sell their merchandise online on brewconfusion.com. And our other customers are the craft brew consumers themselves. And application downloads, we've got to get people to download. After that initial free trial period, we're going to have to charge. So we need as many downloads as possible. And then online merchandise sales, which will provide some margins as well. Operations, so we're going to be located in our office spaces in Camas, Washington. Beautiful area. If you haven't been there, go there. Camas is awesome. We currently have 3 employees, myself, the founder/owner. We will have a sales manager, and we will have a technology manager. Obviously, this is a web-based company, and therefore we have to be on the cutting edge of technology. So our initial website development will be outsourced, and merchandise production as well will be outsourced. That's not where we provide competitive advantage, so it's not our core competency. So we will outsource the initial web development and merchandise production. And distribution initially, while volume's low, will be through UPS and FedEx. But as we grow, we'll have to start bidding through local freight companies. And depending on the scope, eventually we may have to hire our own drivers. Technology impact. Obviously, this is a web-based company, so technology is critical. Brew Confusion is web-based. The website must be current and relevant. It's got to be a current website. It's got to have all the bells and whistles. It's got to be exciting. People have to get on there, and it's got to be truly on the technical edge. So technology needs to be accessible on any web-based tool, whether that's a desktop, a laptop, smartphone, a tablet. There's so many out there. We've got to be on all of them because people want information on the go. They just had dinner. They realize, hey, maybe I want to go for a beer. They want to be able to pick up that phone, check it, and say, Okay, Brew Confusion, where should I go next? Where's the closest brewery? What beers are there? Have I been there? Have I tried these beers? The information's got to be available on the go. The Brew Confusion website must enable speed, utility, facilitation, and availability. We always have to be available. We cannot be down. When somebody goes to use our site, we have to be available. We have to facilitate their journey through this craft brew landscape. They got to find usefulness out of this. It's got to be, provide utility. And finally, speed. Everybody wants something. Everybody wants something, and they want it now. So we've got to have the speed to make that available. And the technology manager, he'll be responsible for all this. He or she may be responsible for all this. So that'll go into the sourcing. And like I mentioned before, I'll just touch on the org structure really quick again. There's the founder owner, and I'll be responsible for all aspects of the business. But specifically my experience is in the cost, financial aspects, and operations. Technology manager, we're currently sourcing this role, but they'll be responsible for overseeing the initial website development, and they'll be the website host ongoing. And finally, the sales manager, we're currently sourcing for this role as well, and they'll be responsible for all inside and outside sales. Environmental and social responsibility. Brew Confusion must be a responsible member of the community. We don't want to be, greenwashing. That's not something we're interested in. We want to show that we're sincere and genuine in all our environmental and social responsibility agendas. Like I said, we've got to leave the environment better than we found it, and we need to be an active participant in the community. Camas is a smaller town, and we've got to be known as a very responsible social partner. And Brew Confusion must be profitable. That's key. We must be profitable in order to achieve our environmental and social sustainability agenda. That's the way we're going to be able to afford to do that. An exit plan. We always have to have an exit plan, right? Well, our long-term goals, we want to build and sustain revenue and profit growth. We want to continue to grow. We will be profitable within the first year and profitable continuing after that. And the sustained profit and revenue growth will enable comfortable living for all three of our employees. I mean, we want to live comfortably. There's no current plans to sell the company. And if I, at some point, decide to sell, it will be first offered to the other two employees and then offered outside if there's no internal interest. So the financials, our initial funding request is $100,000. We're looking to get an SBA loan. The funds will be needed for initial website development, hardware and software purchases, and facility setup. App fees, merchandise sales, and advertising are our three primary revenue streams. And we want to target a 2.5% price increase annually as long as we can maintain volume growth. And that volume growth we anticipate to happen through 2018. And like I said, we'll be profitable within the first year. The ask. So Brew Confusion is a small company looking to leverage the explosive growth in the craft brew industry. We're seeking a $100,000 SBA loan at the lowest interest rate possible. As I mentioned on a previous slide, that $100,000 will be used for initial website development, hardware, software purchases, and facility setup. The owner is seeking to retain 100% control over the company. And, this is a small company, but one that, one that's really family owned. And this is one that's, we want to maintain that control over the company. And finally, the wrap. So Brew Confusion will be the beacon that lights the path where the needs of the brewer and the needs of the brew enthusiast meet in the ultimate brew collaboration. Brew Confusion will be the only one-stop website for the brew enthusiast. And we want to differentiate based on utility and customer service. That's critical. I can't overstate it. We're going to differentiate our product based on utility and customer service. So sit back, pour a nice ice cold craft brew. IPA is my favorite. And Brew Confusion will do the rest. We'll make sure you enjoy every single craft brew you have. And once again, thank you for your time.